What's up everybody, it's Brenton Brown from Forza Tuning and Performance. And what I'm standing next to is a 2018 Lamborghini Huracán Performante. So this is one of my favorite cars, especially this color. This is Rancio and Theseus. If I'm pronouncing that right, we'll put it on the screen. I'm definitely not Italian. So we're gonna talk about this car. I'm gonna show you some different things about it. But what I wanna cover while we're outside of the car is Lamborghini's ALA system. The noticeable difference between the regular Huracan and the Performante is obviously the front bumper, the rear bumper, the wing system. And a big part of that is the ALA system. So I want to explain like what that is and what the components of it are and how it works. Okay, so the ALA system, the first part of it is up here with the front splitter or the air dam. You can see a passageway right here and underneath. And there's an electronic flap in there. It controls the entire thing. And what it does is it can either be off, and in that case, it lets air enter here and here. And this creates a lot of pressure, which means downforce, okay? When the valve is open, what it does is it diverts the air from this high pressure zone underneath the car. So all the air coming through here is going down, and that has no downforce. So I'll explain why you would want either one here in a second, but I'm gonna show you the back side of it, okay? So on the back of the car, we have a rear wing. And so this rear wing comes into play, and it's not uncommon to have supercars have a wing that's hydraulically controlled, that moves. What Lamborghini has done is something really ingenious. So this rear wing, it's fixed, it does not move, but because of the ALA system, it has drastically different dynamics, okay? And how that comes into play is these holes right here. And what's happening here is there's flaps on each side. So when the valves are closed, no air can pass through this chamber, okay? So what happens is all the air coming across the top of the car hits this, comes up, and it provides a lot of downforce. Actually, around 750 pounds of downforce is capable. So that's pushing the weight of down on the back of the car. If the valves are open, what that does is it lets air come in and divert through these holes and up underneath the wing. So now you have top and bottom, which minimizes the downforce. And on the back, you have one on each side, so there's two flaps. So you can independently control the downforce or the lack of downforce per side. So why would you want this, or when would this come into play? If you were under a hard braking condition, okay, and you wanted to stop the car as fast as possible, you would want the maximum amount of downforce possible. So force pushing down on the front of the car, pushing down on the back of the car. The wheels are trying to stop the car, and you want maximum traction to keep the car from sliding, okay? Under hard acceleration, wide open throttle, you want the minimal amount of downforce because you want the car to slip through the air as easily as possible. So when you go to wide open throttle, that's when the valves open up. So up at the front, the air is diverted underneath the vehicle. And then here, the air is diverted underneath the wing to make the car as light aerodynamically as possible. And then closed, the added downforce would drastically improve the stopping capability of the car. The valves are electronic, I mentioned earlier, so they're very light, and this system can adjust. The valves are able to operate on like 0.2 of a second. So they are able to instantaneously adjust for whatever your driver need is, whatever the driver demand is. Now, I mentioned back here in the back that there's two different valves, and I did that for a specific reason. What this system is also capable of doing is helping the car corner. And the way that happens is you can have one side creating maximum downforce and then the other side having no downforce. So if you are going around a corner, and let's say we're gonna go around a hard left-hand corner. So what you would do, most of the weight on the car or the body roll of the car would be over on the right side of the car. So the least amount of weight would be on the left rear tire. So if we're braking coming into a hard corner and we needed to try to spin the back of the car around as fast as possible, what we could do is have this valve closed and have all the downforce on this side of the rear wing pushing this side of the car down to level off the body roll, and vice versa, you could do the other one. It comes into a play as far as handling, acceleration, braking, very, very smart system. And this is the first car that I know of that has anything like this that's not electronic or can independently control either side of the rear wing. So this is a really sophisticated system, really well thought out by Lamborghini, highly impressed when this first came out and first learned about it. So this is a key feature from Lamborghini. So you can see the wing is forged carbon, has a lot of forged carbon around the car. The fenders are carbon fiber. And they did that because the Performante version is a more track-oriented version of the Huracan. And by that, it's tuned for more power. So instead of around 610 horsepower, this is 640. So the regular Huracan is a 610x4, and that just means 610 horsepower with four-wheel drive. It's actually closer to around 600 horsepower. They make a rear-wheel drive version of the Huracan that's a 580-2, and then the Performante is a 640-4. So by 4, it's all-wheel drive. And this is rated about 630 horsepower at 8,000 RPM, so it revs really high, and has about 450 foot-pounds of torque at around 6,500 RPM. So just a hair under 450, actually. The regular Huracan weighs about 3,400 pounds. The Performante, because of the extensive use of carbon fiber and other components, is around 90 pounds lighter than the regular version. So on the outside, as you can see, the back is different. The exhaust exits a little bit differently. So it's pretty easy to detect a Performante versus a regular Huracan. The interior also has a lot of differences, but we'll talk about that when we're driving the car. I think that about wraps it up for just the outside. I wanted to cover this. So why don't we take it out, take it for a ride, and just get some driving experience, kind of show you some interior shots, and I'll give you my opinion on how the car drives. Okay, so we're sitting inside the Huracan Performante. So okay, it looks kind of like a mini Aventador here. So I love the start-stop button right here in the Aventador and the Huracan. I'll push this. Incredible sound. So we're gonna turn the air down just a little bit where it's not blasting you all. So you can see, I want to point out a couple things. Obviously the extensive use of forged carbon in the interior looks phenomenal. You can also see that they've moved the center display, the infotainment center, to the center instead of off to the side. So they got this from Audi. It's like a 12.3-inch display. It's got Google Earth, Bluetooth, all kinds of stuff. You see around the dash, I love this right here. You've got the secret cup holder compartment. That's a very small cup. So hopefully you don't get too thirsty. The vents are all forged carbon, stuff like that. Pretty standard cockpit layout. Right here where your drive modes are. So Strada is obviously the least aggressive. Sport, and you can hear the exhaust note change. And then Corsa, obviously you can see it change again. So you can customize this display however you want to. I'm not going to go through every single thing, but you've got the G-force meter on the bottom, and it's totally customizable. Right here, basically your controls. These are your windows. This is your front lift. You can raise it up and down. Traction control. This is your park sense monitors and your hazards, of course. Climate control. This controls your Google Earth navigation, the whole media, radio, everything like that. Windshield wipers, paddle shifters. So I'm going to just put it in Corsa mode. And right here, your functions, you've got your electronic parking brake. You just push this up and down and you'll be notified on the dash if the parking brake is engaged. And then to basically drive the car, you just have reverse. Pull that up and you can see your backup camera automatically pops on. You have your park button, which automatically electronically puts it into park. All right, so we'll start driving around. Some of the steering wheel, here's your turn signals, very easy to get to. Click over once, push it again to cancel. I like this display right here, and I kind of prefer it in Corsa mode. But you can see right over here, you can change this as well. So I had it in Corsa. Right here you see oil pressure, temperature, various other things. You go up to Strada. I'm gonna pass up the imposter location. The Huracan uses the same 5.2 liter V10 as the Gallardo. It does feature, instead of just direct injection, it has direct fuel injection and port injection, which that's pretty unique. This is the Performante, so like I said earlier, it's got about 630 horsepower, around 8,000 RPM, so it revs pretty high. Regular Huracan weighs about 3,400 pounds. This one's about 90 pounds lighter, mainly because of the use of forged carbon and forged aluminum. This is a more track-based feel, so the car has like electronically controlled steering. traction control. So all those parameters are set up more aggressively in the Performante. So you use a lot of the same subsystems, but they're just more track-based, so the car feels a lot different. Same 7-speed dual clutch automatic transmission, all-wheel drive, of course. They only come that way. They do make a Spider version of this car. This is the coupe. So based off the drive modes, it not only affects, it affects the entire system. So as far as the suspension, so the suspension is like basically magnetic suspension, which they've used that in a variety of different cars. And basically what that is they can change the viscosity of the fluid and the dampeners based off using magnets and metallic components that are inside the magnetic suspension, which has been used in a lot of other cars, so that's nothing new. It's just through magnetic charge, they can change the viscosity of the fluid inside the dampeners to make them more stiff or soft. That's pretty cool technology, but like I said, it's not anything new. Lamborghini uses the ANIMA system, which is Adaptive Network Intelligence Management System. And what it is just basically a term that they use for the subsystem that controls all the different subsystems of the car as far as like handling and performance. So the electronic steering, the suspension, the transmission, the shifting characteristics. So they're using a very advanced system, and they're getting the feedback of 3 different accelerometers, 3 different gyroscopes. So they know the car's cornering, G-forces, how hard it's accelerating, and it's constantly changing a variety of subsystems within the car for an instantaneous, very driver-connected feel. And the car drives phenomenally. Even just like letting it shift on its own. I mean, I'll just let it, I'm not going to do anything crazy. That's just in sport mode, shifting on its own. Car sounds very aggressive. Shifts are incredibly fast. I think they're around 200 milliseconds or less. Honestly, unless you're really used to the car, the car's probably going to be faster just letting it shift on its own. Because you can just concentrate on driving the car, controlling, steering the car instead of watching the tack or shifting on your own. And you can even go to like Strada. And so if you just want to say daily drive the car, I'll tell you what, I'll turn around. So you just heard it in sport mode. Okay, so we're going to go to Strada, which is the least aggressive mode. And I'm just going to kind of give you an example of what it drives like, what it sounds like in that mode at wide open throttle. Just floor it. Yeah, so still it sounds incredible. The shifts are a little bit less harsh. There's a little bit more slippage. Car's not quite as aggressive. Now Performante is not ever going to be not aggressive, but within the realm of what this car is capable or not capable of. So this car is basically essentially the same car as, or based, let me not say the Performante, but the regular Huracan is the same car as basically an Audi R8 V10 Plus, or now the R8 Performance. The newest ones, they call it Performance. And actually the Huracan, the entire chassis is actually built at one of the Audi facilities in Germany. And then they take the chassis and they send that to Lamborghini, and they actually complete building the car. So all the interior stuff and the paint and all the Lamborghini specific things is done at the plant in Lamborghini. So the cars share the exact same platform. We get a lot of questions there. What's the difference between one versus the other? As far as engine, transmission, performance stuff, they're basically the same car. I personally love these cars. The Aventador is just my personal favorite car, but that's a very impractical car. I wouldn't want to drive an Aventador every day. past the cool factor as far as just it's very extreme, and it's the definition of probably the worst blind spots of any car I've ever seen. All the V12 Lamborghinis were like that, not just the Aventador. Now, the Aventador does have use of backup cameras and things like that with technology, where the old cars you have to sit on the door seal and back them out to see anything at all. The Aventador is very wide, just kind of, it's more like just something that you're going to go out and drive, and you're just basically going out to drive the Aventador. A Huracan is just a more louder, aggressive version of an R8, which, as far as just a car to daily drive, you could do it very easily. You can see out of it very well. It handles very well. Now, you don't have much space to hold anything, obviously, but aside from that, I absolutely love these cars. I think they're phenomenal. It's actually one of my favorite cars. So we're almost back to the shop, so this kind of sums up the my take on the Huracan for whatever it's worth. So hope you liked the video. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to the channel if you like the content. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comment section. I'd be more than happy to address them about this car or another car, maybe a video you want to see that we haven't thought of yet. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you.